but we're going to jump over to the administration tab. And from here, this is where you define your roles and responsibilities, as it were, within the policy management solution. What I'm able to do here is define a role, which is things like an approver, an editor, where I can tell or define exactly what it is a particular administrator, or in terms that we use in other solutions, assistant admin, is going to be able to do within the solution. These are the actions they're able to take. This doesn't give them the ability necessarily to do anything to anything just yet, but this is the particular entitlements that they have to be able to perform these activities to the objects that are delegated to them within the environment. We do offer the ability to create your own custom roles. So you can define specifically what it is that you want those admins to be able to perform within that environment. We have the full administrator. You can do things like an exporter role, where all they have the ability to do is export policies into live AD editors, where they can just edit policies in that offline state. They can't do anything else other than manage the policy, the settings within that policy. Potentially, you could have it set up to where they can do linking or not do the linking to OUs within the environment. You can have somebody who's set up just as an approver. What their job is to come in and review policies that have been managed and created or modified, to review those policies, run some diagnostics to look at to see if have these changes, are they what were presented? Are they going to do what we want them to do? Are there any conflicts? And then they can send that on, approve it, and then the exporter would have the ability to do that. Now, these roles are pretty easy to create or edit. I can just simply click on new, give it a name, and from here, it gives me a brand new role. And now I'm able to come in and say, all right, what do I want to give them? We have different controls depending on where they're operating within the solution. You'll see here in a moment with an organization tab how these can relate. So you've got your OU controls. What kind of controls do they have of policies themselves? Things like modifying links, performing rollbacks, viewing any audit information, managing the domain within the organizational tab. So it's your decision on how you want to slice and dice these entitlements for these users and what they're going to be able to perform. Once you've defined your roles, the next step is define what view into your environment you want those users to be able to have. In my particular instance, I have a global view, which allows me to see all objects within the organization, and the policies within the organization. I have another one here for Linux policies. We do offer the ability to do Linux configuration management through our AD Bridge solution to manage policies and configuration through Active Directory of those Linux devices. But I simply can come in here and say, all right, I'm going to create a new view, and we'll just say Windows desktops. Oops. And then from here, what I can do is start picking which policies I want them to be able to manage. I can also do this by organizational unit, whether that is actual AD organizational unit or what we call delegation OUs, to be able to define what a person's able to manage and look at. So I can pick things like admin workstation, demo, and select those three. And then I can also do things like delegation OUs, or it'll take just a second for this to load. I have just a Linux policies OU here, but I could pick that one and include that. Now, you do have the ability to say include or exclude here. So these are not necessarily limited. So if I do like Linux policies, I can say do all policies in that OU, but then exclude specific policies. Or I can say, let me go back here and do, for example, I could come into like Keystone Steel and say include that. but then I want to exclude. I'll pick something below it. I don't want them to be able to do, say, APAC, anything there. So I can say exclude this. So you can get pretty granular with these rules on what they're able to manage and what they're not able to manage. So you can have, generally what you're going to have is you're going to have a certain set of roles on what people are allowed to do, and then you're going to have multiple views that those roles can be assigned to for different groups of users. Because once I define this view, the next step for me is to create an assignment. So from here, I can say I want to include, we'll say, the approver role. I can define what view I want them to have. And then I can either include a group of users or, specific users. So now I can come in here and find, let's see, where's Nancy? We'll get to Nancy Parker and we'll say, and now if I were to go over and then log in as Nancy Parker, the next thing I would see is she can see those particular policies and have the ability to do approvals on those policies. So let me do new incognito. Now when I come to the Universal Policies tab, you can see only the policies that she's able to manage that were delegated to her, and she'll be able to only be able to do things such as approvals. That's all she'll have the ability to do on any of these that have been submitted for approval. All right. But it does allow her to run reports like a conflict analysis, things like that. Let me see here. She can come in and run a conflict analysis, and this allows her to be able to see, are there any things within this policy that could potentially conflict with other policies within the environment? And if there is something that needs to be changed, she could then turn around and reject the approval, and that in this case there's no conflicts. She could reject that approval, and that would then go back to the editor to be able to make the modifications that they need to make.